ॐ वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदसमआणिस्तः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासि अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ। Om. May my speech be accorded with the mind. May my mind be accorded with the speech. O self-effulgent one, Brahman, reveal thyself to me. May you both, speech and mind, be the carriers of the highest truth to me. May not all that I have heard depart from me. May I be able to join day and night through this study. I shall utter what is verbally true. I shall utter what is mentally true. May that Brahman protect me. May that Brahman protect the teacher. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om, peace, peace. Peace be unto you all. Good morning. This morning I am going to speak on self and ego. On last Sunday I spoke ego and egoism. And you might have remembered that ego is the I-ness or the awareness of I as an living entity, and egoism, the identification of ego with desire and the external world. That is called egoism. So how to control this ego? Ego is not that much bad, because I am Mr. A, I am Mr. B, that's a not very bad ego. But when I is connected with some designation, I am an engineer, I am a doctor, that doctor, engineer, father, friend, those are the attachments with I. These attachments are egoism, and this attachment are not good, because when I am expressing myself as an engineer, as a doctor, then my role play is changed. When I express myself as a father, as a friend, as a citizen, my role play is completely changed from I am Mr. A. So the point is this: when our role play is changed, that is egoism. and that is not bad, because I is not bad. The behavior that is bad, because if we become angry, if we become jealous, if we become selfish, those are the behavior that we express by the influence of egoism. Because at that time I am attached with my designation. When I am attached with my designation as a father, a policeman is excellent. But when he is delivering his duty as a policeman, he is rude. The question is about the duty. The question may be raised that it is his duty to be rude, to control the mob or control or manage the situation. It is his duty. But the point is this: when his role play is changing, he is isolating from his real nature, I. The more a person will be detached from his or her real nature, I, and identified with designation, this gap is called alienation. Our problem in life, we face the social problem, mental problem, we face because of alienation. Even the Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita had the problem because of this alienation. Because Arjuna was completely identified with his kinsman, and he forgot his real nature as well as his duty. So see, the identification of our egoism with different things affect our duty. So duty is not at par. Duty is not the justification for a egoistic person. The policeman is delivering his duty, but egoism is not always at par in sequence with duty. That is the point. Because Bhagavad Gita is the great example when Arjuna forgot his duty as a warrior to fight, because he was completely identified with his kinsman. Now, how to get rid of that? The question is, and identified our ego with self. Sri Ramakrishna gave an example, and very clearly he said in his very lucid language that ego and egoism, especially the egoism is the byproduct, derivative of ego. So how to get rid of this ego? Actually, it is not required. And we cannot get rid of ego also. Sri Ramakrishna gave this example. Sri Ramakrishna said that when a ripe leaf from a coconut tree falls down, It is detached from the tree, but it leaves a mark on the tree. Even if we can try to get rid of this ego, we cannot get rid of this ego fully. It will keep its mark on our characteristics, on our personality. So, get rid of ego is not required, and it is not possible also. So, what to do? The way out is ego awakening. If we see the tradition, the scriptures, we can find that there are innumerable cases of ego awakening, because before our spiritual advancement, we need ego awakening. What is ego awakening? That is the important question. And how can we do it? Actually, if you see this both selfishness and unselfishness, jealousy, hatred, anger, all these characteristics are the consequence of our wrong attitude because of unawakened ego. If ego is awakened, immediately all these characteristics will be changed. We can understand the consequence deeply, and we should not do or express this kind of characteristics. It is not only the social consequence, it is our psychological consequences also that change because of our unawakened ego. However, what is ego awakening, and how can we undergo this ego awakening? That is the question. We can understand that there are three alienation, or mainly the two alienations in our personality. The first alienation or gap, I would say, the first is self from ego, number one. Ego is the I awareness. We all have that. This awareness as a living being. Then there is a second alienation is from ego and egoism. The second alienation. And the third alienation is egoism and the society. So these are the three alienations. I am going to speak to reduce this alienation first from ego and egoism. So ego and egoism, this awakening, this is called ego awakening. Sometimes the guru, they also has to play as the role of psychiatric by their close association. In ancient time, the disciple, they used to live in Guru's house. So by close association, sometimes by involving them in work, or sometimes by scolding, they actually help disciples to awaken their ego. Take the example from the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna awakened the ego of M in the second visit. If you remember the second visit of M to Sri Ramakrishna, he scolded him. And by scolding, he actually awakened M's ego and free it from the clutches of egoism. So that is the ego awakening. Ego awakening is that when ego is becoming free from the clutches of egoism, that is called ego awakening. And one can understand the difference between ego, egoism, and ego and self. When they can understand it clearly, that is called ego awakening. Now, what happened after ego awakening? It is the awareness. Again, spirituality is nothing but knowledge and awareness. First, we have the knowledge, we can understand it, and then we can actualize it in our, assimilate it, integrate it with our personality. And that is the awareness. We develop some kind of awareness that is important. And in that way, we can transform our consciousness. That is all about spirituality. Now, when our ego is awakened, then we have to reduce the gap or alienation between the ego and the self. So there are 4 theories regarding ego and the self. The first theory is that ego and self is one. There is no difference. This is the first theory. The second theory is that there is a difference between ego and self. The third theory is that ego is lower and self is the higher dimension. This is the third theory. And the fourth theory, there is neither self nor ego. These are the 4 theory. The first theory, there is no difference between self and ego. Self and ego are the one and same thing. Second, there is difference between ego and self. Third theory, self is higher, ego is lower. Ego is the reflection of self. And the fourth, there is no ego and self at all. These are the 4 theories about self and ego. And I would just touch according to Western philosophy and according to Indian philosophy. The first theory is there is no difference between ego and self. In the West, Plato took that. Plato said that there is no difference between self and ego. There is no self, no ego. Only one entity is there. And this one entity has 3 components: reason, willing and feeling, cognition, volition and affection. That's all. And this is in vogue still now. The second theory, there is difference between ego and self. Kant, he took up this theory. And he said there is two types of self. One is empirical, means the lower connected with world, and other is transcendental, the metaphysical level. So there are two which Kant took up. Then the third level, that self is ego is the reflection of self, that was taken by Bradley. Bradley took this philosophy and he said the absolute and the soul reality and everything, these are two different. The absolute, the reality is the reflection of the absolute. And German philosopher Fichte also appreciate that philosophy. Then the fourth philosophy, fourth concept, there is no difference. There is no self and ego at all. That was taken by David Hume. He said there is nothing which is called ego and self. Now let us take up the Indian stand. The first is that ego, there is ego and self. There is, the first one is ego and self. There is no difference between ego and self. The Vaisheshik, Naya and Vaisheshik, they have taken this theory. They said that everything is dravya, the substance, the self is substance, and knowledge is jnana. So the knowledge about this substance is only the things. So there is no difference, everything is substance. Self is nothing but the one substance. The second one, there is difference between ego and self. Ramanuja and Ramanuja and Madhva, they took up this kind of thing, that yes, there is difference. Ramanuja says that the knowledge about the highest knowledge is called Swarupa Jnana in Sanskrit, the intrinsic knowledge. And the worldly knowledge, he said, Dharma Bhuta Jnana. This is the worldly knowledge. So he differentiated between self and lower knowledge, higher knowledge and lower knowledge. So ego and self is different. The third point, ego is the reflection of self, was taken up by Vedanta. And I shall discuss it afterwards. And the third, there is the fourth, no existence of ego and self at all. Buddhism, they took up this theory that there is no existence of ego and self at all. So, as a person, they called it sanghata, the combination of 5 things. They said skandhas, the combination of 5 skandhas. They called rupo vedana, rupo form, vedana is sensation, then sanjnana, the perception, then sanghata, the volition, and vijnana, the consciousness. This consciousness is not exactly the same thing of Vedanta. So these are different components, a combination of 5 things is a person. So when these 5 things are disintegrated, a person goes. That is the theory of man regarding Buddhism. Now let us see how this Vedanta manage this ego and the self. So these are two things, ego and self, and they think there is no two things, there is only one, that is the self. And this integration of these two selves are required, because otherwise there will be the alienation. And as long as there will be the alienation, there will be different selves, there will be the different things. Actually, another philosophical theory is there, that ego and self is different. That is the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy has also accepted that there is two things, Purusha and Prakriti. The ego is the Prakriti, and Purusha, the consciousness, is the self. So they have also accepted the ego and the self are two different things and separated. Now, how Vedanta integrated these two things, let us see. So reconcile the conflict between the ego and the self is required. According to Vidyaranya in Panchadashi, they said, he gave it very clearly, the ego is the granthi. In Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavad Gita says that what is a human being? A human being is the combination of Chit and Jada. Just like Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the human being is the combination of matter and spirit. Swami Vivekananda said, everything in this universe is the combination of matter and spirit. Unless there is a combination of matter and spirit, there will be no creation. So, the matter and spirit, everywhere there is matter and spirit. Now, here is the philosophical difference in Indian philosophy. How this matter and spirit come together. The different philosophical schools, they became different. It is because of, on this point, that's how they all agreed that matter and spirit, they come together. But why? Why they come together? And how they come together? It is a compound, it is a complex, it is a mixture. In chemistry, we have different kind of things. One is called mixture. You can separate mixture very easily. Sand and iron ore. By magnet you can separate it. In lower grade, they give in the examination they give, please separate the mixture of iron ore and sand. So like that. They gave a magnet, so magnet, and you can separate it. So that is a mixture. Then there is a compound. So all the chemical molecules are changing. The different bond is, there is a creation of different bond. That is a compound. However, what kind of combination is this? Here, the philosophical schools, they differ from each other. I can give you only two examples. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, they say that Purusha and Prakriti is coming together. Then the creation starts. So coming together, how? They said, it is not mixture, not because these are completely two different entities, different things. So they are in juxtaposition. When they come side by side, that's all. The creation starts. That is their conception, juxtaposition. Now the question is why they are coming side by side. And Vyasa gives a very good explanation. Vyasa says, just like a magnet attracts the iron ore, similarly, the Purusha attracts the Prakriti, nature. And then they come together in juxtaposition. Now, see, here is the difference between Sankhya and Vedanta. So if Purusha can attract, then it is a quality of Purusha. So that means Sankhya Purusha has the attributes. But Vedanta Purusha doesn't have any attributes. No quality. They cannot attract. They do not do anything. Here is the difference. It is all philosophy. Now Vedanta. What Vedanta says? Yes, Chit and Jada. They said Prakriti and Purusha. The same thing Vedanta is saying Chit and Jada. And they said it is a knot tied together. Chit, Jada, Granthi. Granthi means knot. So the human being are nothing but the Chit, Jada, Granthi. They are coming, the matter and the spirit. They are coming together and tied up by a knot. So how can you separate that? But they are not two things. We are assuming it two things. They are one. By ignorance we are thinking it two. Just take the example. If there is a shadow, my shadow, I think somebody is standing there. It is ignorance. Exactly in the same way, we are developing some ignorance. Because of our ignorance, we are developing some ideas and we think it is true. There are innumerable examples. The boiling potato. They are jumping. A kid, he understands, okay, potato are jumping. Can potato jump? No. Because of the fire. So the potato is taking this jumping quality from the fire. Exactly in the same way, our ego is taking the power from ourself and acting as a self. So there is only one thing. They are taking power from the Atman. And that is ignorance. That is Maya. So, how to separate or untie this knot? That is the question. So first is the ego awakening. We know these are the difference. If you don't know that there is some alienation, how can you remove this alienation? Now, this is how we can alienate this knot, or how we can eliminate this. This is the question. The awareness, this ahamkara. So the bad is egoism. If we can understand, this is the awareness, nothing but it is the awareness. The fundamental cause of egoism, the worst thing is the egoism. So the fundamental cause of egoism, egoism, they have another quality to appreciate others. This is the quality of egoism. They appreciate things from the universal life for the use of ego. That is their fundamental things. So how to get rid of that? When ego is awakened, it gives up the egoism. The egoism is eliminated completely. When ego is awakened, we know that yes, this is the extra part for us. This has no use. This is the bad thing. If we are aware of that, then egoism is completely eliminated. This search marks the beginning of true spiritual life. Unless we eliminate our egoism, this true spiritual life cannot start. So I have already mentioned that in the second visit itself, Sri Ramakrishna crushed the egoism of M by saying, "Oh, you are a knowledgeable person, it looks like." He said, because M was a school teacher, and M thought, and he was a brilliant student, brilliant teacher, so he thought that he knows everything. He knows everything, He knows everything of this information, all information, Western philosophy, Eastern philosophy, etc., etc. He knows everything. Now, he said, "Have you married?" He said, "Yes, I have my wife." But immediately he said, "But he is ignorant. He doesn't have any qualification." Then Sri Ramakrishna said, "Do you think you are a knowledgeable person?" He was wonderstruck. M was wonderstruck. Why Sri Ramakrishna is telling this? Yes, I am a knowledgeable person. Then Sri Ramakrishna explained, knowing one is called jnana. Knowing everything is called ajnana. Immediately M's ego crashed. So, this ego awakening, after the ego awakening, then spiritual quest leads to the discovery of the source of consciousness in the higher self, Atman. Spiritual life is not an attempt to run away from the one's lower self, an attempt to confront it and purity. Then we have to understand, get rid of all role play. If we eliminate everything one by one, then what will be there? Nothing but self. So these are all awareness. Vedanta never says, do it, do meditation, go for these things, repeat the name of God for 1,000 times. No. Vedanta says, know it, become aware of it. That's all. Think and think. Reflect on it. Think on it deeply. And then you will become, completely get rid of everything. When the knot of ego is untied, the jada or insentient part drops. And chit, the sentient part alone, shines as prajna. The light of the pratyagatman, the ego. The ego has now been divinized and transformed into the inner self. So when you can, but you are doing everything by ego. All thinking, all practice, you are doing by the help of ego. because we do not have any other things. Self cannot do that. Self can only work through I-ness, I-awareness. If you do not have I-awareness, you cannot think all these things. But this I-awareness is the pure I-awareness. Not I am a man, I am a woman. Not I am an elderly person, I am a kid. This identification is not there. Completely pure I-ness. When this happens, egoism, selfishness, self-love give place to love for the inner self. Since this inner self is one with the Supreme Self, Paramatman or Brahman, love for one's own inner self necessarily implies for the love of all beings. So selfishness is not self-love. If one can understand that I am self, when the love for self is real, then this love for one's own self, capital S, transformed into love for all, everybody. Indeed, only a person who takes his stand on the higher self can have pure, unselfish love for others. If we wish to have unselfish and pure love for other people, we must find out its source in the higher self within us. If we wish to bridge the gulf between us and our fellow men, we must first bridge the gulf between our lower self and the higher self. Any question? When Swami Vivekananda was visiting in the Bay Area, sometimes he used to say, today, before his lecture, he used to say, today I shall throw a bomb. Yes, please.
So where is this oneness of self and ego takes place? In us? Is it in the mind? Where is it?
Okay, yes, it is a good question. Actually, according to Indian philosophy, yes, as Buddhism, see, Buddhism says what is a man? A man is a combination of 5 components. Then, according to Vedanta, what is the mind? Mind is the component of 5. And ego is one of them. Shankaracharya's poem is there, you know. One of our devotees was telling me that she is fond of Nirvana Shatakam of Shankaracharya. In the Nirvana Shatakam, it is said, 5 things. Mana, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta, Hananam. So there are 5 things. Mana, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta. These are the things. Mana, Buddhi, Ahankara and Chitta, 4 things. So these four things, this ahankara is the ego. So it is in the mind. But unless ego, the I-ness, Atman cannot work, Atman cannot express, because Atman has no any power, no any electricity. Everywhere is the electricity. Unless you tap it and run it through a wire and feed the fittings and bulb, you cannot see electricity, you cannot find the, the function of electricity. Exactly in the same way. Unless there is a human body, human mind, you cannot see the expression of consciousness. Everywhere is a consciousness. How can you see that? So that's the thing.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So, I know, so we spoke about the Chit Jada Granthi. So, is this concept also within the realm of ignorance? Because in my mind, and of course, we've discussed before that the subtle self is becoming more and more gross, and at one point of time.
Okay. Yes. Again, Vidyaranya. What Vidyaranya says in Panchadashi, he says, what is the self? The self is the combination of three things. What are the three things? Pure consciousness, subtle body, the substratum is the pure consciousness, then the subtle body, and the reflection of pure consciousness on the subtle body.
But all are derived from the self itself.
Everything.
So then where is the Granthi?
Derive means, Granthi means this. Derive, what is, I explained, Deriving means they are taking power from them. Okay? So, that is the Granthi, if you are identified with that. Because ego is acting as a self. We don't know that. That behind ego there is another self. That is the main thing. So unless we separate, this is the knot. Unless we separate this knot, ego and this thing, unless we forget completely our identity with I, that is the knot. That is the ignorance.
But the knot is apparent, right?
Everything is apparent here. There is no any physical knot, Everything is, yes, knot means you can say a tie, you can say identification, you can say their closeness or whatever. Because you cannot get rid of I-ness. Because you cannot separate your I-ness and the real self. Why? Because they are tied up. You can, intellectually you can understand the difference between the egoism and ego. But intellectually you cannot understand the difference between ego and self. For that, deeper and transcendental experience is required. So this identification is called knot. This is knot. Any other question? So these are different philosophies. Vidyaranya's philosophy is that subtle body and all these things. Any question? Because unless we understand and psychologically dissect our personality, we cannot go deep into this. Because we have to know the function of our mind, function of everything in the path of knowledge. It is not necessarily exclusively the path of knowledge. We may be in the path of bhakti, but all these awareness or information we must have to face the challenges of the world. If we understand why we are stressful, why we are angry, then, or where we become jealous, then we can easily, manage it. That yes, this is a function of ego. So I am identified with ego. If you think all this, reflect on this, immediately you can find that your outlook will be changed. If you want to change your outlook. But the unfortunate thing is that we do not want to change anything else. We think we are in safety zone. We do not want to get out of our safety zone. In Indian scripture, there is the example of pig. The pigs, they are in the filthy atmosphere and they are in the mud, in the bad state, and they think that they are fine. They do not want to come out from there. That is their safety zone. You are from here are thinking, oh, see, where are they? Oh my God. But they are fine there. Exactly in the same way, if a person from higher consciousness, if they see us, they will say, oh, where are they? In Inspired Talk, Swamiji in one place said that when puppies, they are fighting with each other, we enjoy it. They are biting each other and we enjoy it. In the same way, when we are fighting with our neighbors or with our enemy, God loves.
You were talking about the awakening of the ego, and you also gave the example of when M visited Ramakrishna, and Ramakrishna crushed his ego. In that situation, he was able to see his ego. So I'm thinking for us that we need to, like you say, come in contact with some person with higher consciousness, so they're able to point out this ego to us, so we can
Take another example from Bhagavad Gita.
yeah.
When Arjuna was arguing like this in this beginning of the second chapter, then Sri Krishna said, do you think you are a knowledgeable person? Who is doing all this? That is also that. Take the example from Upanishad. The Guru said, take these cows, and when it will be 1,000, it will come. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् सर्वस्तरोतु दुर्गानि सर्वो भद्राणि पश्यतु सर्वसद्बुद्धिमाप्नोतु सर्वत्र नन्दतु दुर्जनः सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जनः शान्तिमाप्नुयात् शान्तमुच्येत्तेबन्धेभ्यो मुक्तश्चान्यान् विमोचयेत्. May all be happy. May all enjoy good health. May all see happy events. May all be freed from miseries. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bondages. May the freed make others free. May the Supreme Spirit, the presiding deity of all sacred activities, be satisfied, for he being pleased, the whole universe feels satisfied. Peace, peace. Peace be unto you all. Next, I think I shall speak on alienation, because this alienation is the gap, between our ego and all our fear, meaninglessness, all our psychological problem comes from this alienation. And you cannot remove this alienation by any medicine, by any psychological, from psychiatric. Only Vedanta can help you in this aspect. It is not bias statement. It is 100% true, because the basic cause of alienation, the alienation between ego in 3 stages. Alienation between 3 stages. If your egoism is not properly connected with society, you feel alienated from your friend and society. You withdraw yourself. Few people are there. There are various reasons to withdraw themselves. They say, no, I don't want to go. I keep my home. It is not that they want isolation, they want peace and staying at home, because they are unable to go along with the society. That's why they withdraw themselves. That is the first alienation point. The second alienation point, egoism and ego. Second alienation. And third alienation, ego and self. So every problem, loneliness, meaninglessness, everything, all psychological problem begins from this alienation. And I think, strongly feel, that Vedanta can solve this one. Neither medicine nor psychiatric. I think we don't have any next Sunday class, I think. before winter recess? Because next Sunday is 24th. Yeah. So we do not have any Sunday class before winter recess. We start on 14th January probably. 14th January is Sunday. So we shall start 14th January, our Sunday talk. Our Thursday class will stop before 24th. I think we will have only one Thursday class this coming Thursday, and then we will stop, and then after 14th January our Thursday class will start. Similarly, our San Jose program also, today is the last probably, and then we shall have to stop our Sunday. But one event we will have in the winter recess, that is Holy Mother's birthday celebration on January 7th at 3 p.m. here in this hall in Berkeley. So we have that one on 7th January, and we will continue the meditation class in San Jose, Yogadharana. That is the point. And we will have 24th evening, we will have the Christmas Eve celebration. There will be some Christmas Eve and New Year Eve celebration. So there will be some carol. We have devotees, they will sing the carols, and there will be a short lecture from me on Christ and Christianity. And that's all, a short program probably, let us see, from 7 to 9, and then there will be Christmas dinner. You all are welcome to all our events. Thank you, and have a very, very good holiday season.